What he just said has Habs fans amped up, as we have not heard this from Patrik Laine before. In a recent interview with a Finnish news outlet, Patrik Laine reveals the shocking truth about this upcoming season, about his training last year, how that very much differs from this year, and something insane about how he views hockey now versus even a few years ago. We got to get into all that. It's incredible. But not just that, Kent Hughes had some very interesting comments on David Reinbacher and the upcoming defense battle, and NHL.com has been doing their fantasy projections, and a couple of Habs are landing at some pretty high spots. A lot of great stuff coming up in this episode of Habs Digest. And let's start there, Jesse, with some fantasy hockey. Hey, if you want to be part of the Habs fantasy or Habs Digest fantasy hockey, make sure you're a hat trick tier member come the start of the season. But let's start with Nick Suzuki. Straight up, in your face, point projection 90 from NHL.com this season. Now we'll get into Lane Hutson in a second too, but Jesse, I mean, I feel like they're even undershooting. Like, I get it. They want to put what they feel is maybe a guarantee. This dude, 89 points this past year in 82 games. He has just been increasing every single year. I think 90 is fine as a baseline. I think he could push even higher. 100 is maybe a stretch, but not impossible. I like that they're still giving him the respect to keep increasing, though. This dude, hey, top 10 center in the league. Take my word for it.
And I love that the hype is increasing. And again, like the evolution of this young core with obviously Nick Suzuki is going to be a big part of this going forward for this team, of course. And what we really know is like the thing about Nick Suzuki, one thing you have to know, tied for the entire NHL in terms of game winning goals. Like this guy is just absolutely so clutch. And the real question for me is like, yeah, he's going to get like over 90 points next year. I'd say quite reasonably could maybe have him around that 95 because like we're having Demidov is coming on the team. Like this young core is getting better. His point totals have just increased every year with the team getting so much better around him. Very much stands to reason. That's just going to continue to really improve, especially as he's coming into his own, which I think is another factor where like, again, he's just starting to come into his prime. Another huge factor in all this. The big question is, Josh, like he scored 33 goals last year.
Yes, he did.
Can he get 35? Can he push, like get around that 37, 40? Because if he can do that along with his playmaking, which just like won't go away because that's so much a part of what he does, like what does that really mean for the Habs at this point? Because then things just get really scary knowing that he's not even the only option anymore.
Yeah, he's not. There's so many deadly options right now, and he's got that 30-goal pedigree. 35 is not crazy, especially for a team that's going to look to get a lot more goals this year, hopefully with their depth, but also a team that can now deploy a first line that's not going to be smothered by the other team's top defensive line like was happening for each of the last 2, 3, 4 years, right? So now there's hopefully going to be a little less not even just pressure, but defensive pressure on that Suzuki line. Really excited to see where he can get. Do you think he'll get 90 points? Let us know down below, but we'll also talk quickly about Lane Hutson. I think 70 is a fair mark for him because honestly, Jesse, like sophomore slumps, they exist. I don't think they will very much for Lane Hutson, but it's crazy that a second-year defenseman is getting a point projection of 70. I understand being conservative, right? And just making sure, like, yeah, we're not going to go too far. 66 points. I mean, it was, the fourth time in modern NHL history that Lane Hutson, or that a defenseman led all rookies in scoring. He did it with 66. 70, I think, is very realistic. If he keeps rocking those one-timers like we're seeing in practice, it's crazy for me to say that our sophomore defenseman, who's 5'9", has a 70-point projection, and I still think that could very well be under his actual point total.
Exactly, because I'd have him at 75 points for next year, around that range, give or take. Just a little bit, again, just the way that he's such a student of the game. And again, that increased kind of team around him, I think is going to help. That decor is looking good. I think, conversely for Hutson, that's going to be such a big factor. The big reason, Josh, why I'm giving like this big projection for him is just, I think that he's going to continue on that momentum, that trajectory that he really started since last year. I think a lot of players on this team, like Suzuki, obviously second half Slaf was like a big part where from December 1st onwards, this team really just got better.
Yeah.
But was it really the team that got better or just guys like Hutson, Suzuki stepping up their play and everybody just followed suit? Because Lane Hutson was third among all defensemen in the league in terms of points from December 1st onward. I believe he's just going to continue on that momentum going forward if we know anything about his work ethic and his drive. So that's what's really got me excited. If he could, again, 75, start teetering on that point per game type of pace already. He surprised us, but Josh, I can't help but feel that he's not done doing that.
Absolutely not. Like say, hey, the momentum. That's a big one. The momentum of the Laine train. It's hard to stop it. Once he gets going,
Yeah.
it takes a
Chug it.
full world force to stop him. It's going to be unreal to see this year. Let us know your thoughts. Is Hutson and Suzuki 70 and 90? Would you go higher or lower? We'd love to hear from you. But hey, let's continue on the decor right now because Ken Hughes been talking. He's been dropping a lot of very interesting quotes recently. We talked about Kirby, Dach. We talked about a few other things, Ivan Demidov. But I want to talk here about our boy David Reinbacher. Now, Ken Hughes had this to say. He said, we know David's an NHL defenseman. We're excited about that. We're excited about what he's going to represent for our organization over time, but we're not going to force him into things. And then he went on to say that the playoffs in Laval was great, but we'll see if he comes in and surprises, and we have decisions to make. Otherwise, there's the opportunity for him to go to Laval and keep developing and progressing. And again, this theme that we talked about yesterday, Jesse, of Ken Hughes simply saying, look, we're not in a rush to force these guys in the NHL. If they want to come in and force our hand, by all means. And that's what I love about it. The biggest thing with Reinbacher, and it's a common theme you're seeing with fans everywhere, they're saying it, right? He just needs a lot more time on the ice. Again, since he was drafted in 2023, he missed a bunch of games, only played 35 games for Clutton, then 11 for Laval, 46 total games that season, then only 23 total games this past year. What he's missing is that full-time play on North American ice. As much as we know he's going to be a part of this team in the future, we know that top four of Guhle, Reinbacher, Hutson, Dobson in some order is likely going to be our decor of the future. You know what? After hearing Kent Hughes say this as well, I want Reinbacher to try and crack this lineup, but with Struble there as well, like, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to see him get a full season of seasoning, I guess you could say, in Laval.
It wouldn't, right? And I feel like that's probably going to be the case and again, I think he's going to have a very strong training camp, but because we got some guys that we know are NHL ready, I feel like they're going to get that inside. We got such riches on defense right now where we can be patient with Reinbacher. But I feel like it's just going to get to a boiling point, Josh, where like he's just that good. Like, and they're going to realize it, like that smooth, that big, like just being a beast on there, like I really think he's going to start putting some pressure where maybe an injury happens. And even though there's a couple guys vying for that spot, I think he could kind of get in there. And then once he does, even this year, I think we're going to see him play for a couple games for the Montreal Canadiens at least, just to kind of wet his beak. And like, that's actually got me very excited, like to see this player. It's one of the biggest storylines of like, along with Demidov, Slav's increased improvement. Obviously, we can't forget about Cole and Suzuki. We haven't, but like seeing Reinbacher out on the ice this year is going to be amazing. I just think he's going to get his opportunity at some point. We have to remember, like, he was drafted 5th overall for a reason. There is a world where he becomes the Habs' best overall guy.
Yep.
Not like the best offensively, maybe like not the best like defensively, but just like all around has that best impact on the game here going forward. Like that's the ideal thing. That's what you want to happen. Despite the injuries, like I see a world clearly, Josh, where that could happen. Like if he just hits, like what that really means for this team, just knowing that we're set in defense in that type of way will be huge. We're going to need to wait, but I think we're going to see him get a couple games. Mm-hmm. And once he does, I just think there's going to be a lot there that, again, it's going to be hard for him to kind of bring down. At least that heat's going to be there. Might open up some trades where Kent Hughes will have some decisions to make sooner than later.
And that's exactly what we want. Right? We want him to force Kent Hughes' hand. Kent Hughes even said himself, look, if he wants to surprise us, go for it. But you're absolutely right. Like, look, just get him some seasoning. It wouldn't shock me if he played in the NHL, if there's an injury or if there's a trade. Like you said, there could be a million reasons why he does play or doesn't play. But I'm just excited to see what he can bring because, hey, his playoffs looked pretty darn good. 6 points in 13 games. I believe that was the same as Owen Beck. So 2 goals, 4 assists in 13 games. I think they had identical stat lines. Now, it's kind of apples to oranges, but at the same time, like David Reinbacher has been improving. When we've seen him on the ice for an actual decent consecutive stretch, he has looked amazing and he's settled in very quickly, and that's what I'm excited about this year. So leave some love for David Reinbacher down below. But one other guy we gotta leave some love for, Patrik Laine. There's been so much talk about him lately, but there was a recent article posted by a Finnish news outlet. It's linked down below. You can translate it through your browser, copy paste it into your favorite translator. That's what we did, and my goodness, there's some good stuff. But I want to start too. There was a recent article on Dans les coulisses that said, look, they say, like, I'm being told that Patrik Laine really likes Montreal. He wanted really to be really like bold and like, hey, if he could put an animation on it, really likes Montreal. And there's been talk about an extension. And look, again, Jesse, before we dive into some of the stuff Laine said, I think we're on the same page where it's like, let's just see Laine play a bit first before we start talking extension. Because look, he's saying all the right things. I'm excited to get into that. And like, look, Laine again, he's coming into this season more ready than ever, and we'll dive into those quotes in a second. But how good is it to hear that he genuinely seems to love Montreal so much that I think already he's starting to shift the tides of some fans into saying, you know what, I think I actually am excited. I think I do want to see him stick around, because I think some fans were starting to sour after the end of last season. But like, I don't know, I feel like everything as of late, again, we'll get into some more in a second, is just turning the tides on that a little bit.
It is just, this is like exactly the operation, which is get Laine loving hockey again, because if he does, the talent's just naturally going to shine through. It's motivated. It's like having like a really good employee that, they're really good at their job. Is you get them motivated, like they're going to get amazing results. That's exactly what Laine is going to do going forward here. So I had a feeling you would like it, but again, this is a good look on the organization to turn this around and could have a really powerful effect on them if it can happen. Now, again, like the whole caveat in this, we know with Laine, yes, there is a catch here. It's just that there is going to be like increased expectations 100%. As the team is getting improved result. And Martin St. Louis has been very patient and smart in knowing when to raise those expectations. My question and partially my concern, Josh, is just like, will Laine be able to step up to the plate as those expectations are raised? Because we know more is going to be needed. Maybe some coaches, he could get away with some things. Martin St. Louis, while being positive, and there's just certain things like some non-negotiables. So again, I believe that there's that good relationship. We could make it happen. And there's a reason why he loves Montreal. Marty's a part of that. So you have to feel like he's ready to step up to those expectations. But that's just, again, we have to see it, right, Josh? Like, am I wrong for maybe, wanting to see that on the ice first?
No, I mean, you're absolutely bang on. I completely agree. And you know what? It's a great point too. Cause like what we saw last year, Marty was not shying away from pretty much benching Laine for large stretches. Like there was a time in the season. He did that. Yeah. And there was a stretch where Laine wasn't even our extra attacker with the empty net. I think we had Armia out there one time instead of him. And it was like, that was the point where I was like, oh, Marty doesn't play around. So you're bang on with that. We have to absolutely see it. But he is saying a lot of the right things. And I want to dive into some of the quotes from this Finnish article. I'm mainly talking about his training to start, saying, look, last summer he trained for 3 weeks before the season, maybe a month and a half after the shoulder surgery, now been able to train full time since May. It's a different starting point for the season when you don't have to start out recovering. And then he also went on to say that last season was a bit difficult, but considering the circumstances, it could have been worse. Just didn't have enough energy because I hadn't trained properly for a couple of years. I ran out of steam. Now I should be able to keep going. There are no question marks about my fitness and readiness. Maybe I'll even score a few goals in 5-on-5 play. So there's one more thing I want to get into in a second, Jesse, again, about how much he loves Montreal and a shocking thing that he did bring up. But again, when we're talking about a guy who looks ready to go, this is what we've been saying since the start. It's a Laine that we have not seen in Montreal. We have not seen in the NHL in years this version of Patrik Laine, who actually wants to be there a lot and is like fully locked in, ready with a bunch of training. And that's maybe the most exciting aspect of Laine's upcoming season for me.
And quite frankly, I'm a little bit surprised, Josh. I know the boys have been putting in the work in the offseason, and we're seeing right now with the practices and training. But this coming from Laine right now, like this coming on all cylinders, and I completely love it. Again, emphasis on the cardio and the strength training, because again, that's like the one factor. If just we see Laine back check, and there were moments, it's just we want less like where that stands out like, oh my goodness, did you just see, Josh, like how Laine just backchecked, and more of that just like becoming the norm? Like, yeah, Laine backcheck. That's what he does. That's just what we want to see more going forward. And if he can do that, I just think that will be huge. Again, the contract here is kind of thing where they're going to need to see it because, again, like we don't want to be kind of so cynical here, but again, we don't want a world where we just feel like he's going to pull the rug over us, where it's just like, okay, pull this effort, and then he gets the deal, and then maybe mailing it in. I feel like this is a renaissance. We're not trying to say that here on Habs Digest. We're about the positivity. I believe there's a world where he actually enjoys playing hockey again. That's going to translate into his effort. Is that maybe of kind of like a slow burn to get there? Yeah, but I think that we can get there, and that's kind of been like our goal all this time with Laine. And the fact that that's actually like a possibility, we see the world where that can come into fruition. That chemistry with Demidov being a huge factor in all of this is just all tremendously encouraging.
100%. And maybe the most important thing, like you said earlier, is that he loves being in Montreal. And just the final thing to top off this video, as if there wasn't enough hype for Laine, he said, this is what he said in this article. He said, in the past, I told the GM and my agent several times that I was quitting. I just couldn't do it anymore. It's great that we've gotten to this point. Now I'm enjoying life in hockey again for the first time in a long time. It's nice to be working hard. A lot of work has gone into this. And again, this is translated so you don't get the full expression of what he's saying unless you speak Finnish, which we don't, so there may be missing context, maybe it's more positive, more negative, whatever. But just to hear this, Jesse, like to know that our fan base and our organization is what's helping him through this so much, to get him back to a position where he doesn't want to quit anymore. He loves it. Work's gone into this. He's ready to go. I mean, I don't know, it's almost emotional in a way.
Well, and he kind of needed this too. Like when we just watched the video that was released about the rebuild this past year that was released on YouTube, like he was saying at moments during the video, like he said, like, I felt like I didn't deserve all the love from the fans, but it was that love from this great organization that kind of carried him through, that kind of fed him when I think he really needed it the most, really. So again, I think that that's just kind of garnered so much goodwill going forward. We just love hockey. We just wanted, like, for us, that's just kind of normal. And for Laine to kind of come here and just to be accepted in that type of way, I think has been huge. And just the culture all around, where a couple of years ago, this wouldn't have been the situation. We wouldn't have been able to turn out our Laine and get the possible fruits of that labor as well. So again, that shows how, again, this culture is bearing that tangible fruit. And it would, Laine, if this could really go well, would just be such a tremendous victory in that goal.
I can't wait to see it. Laine, like, he's up there with Ivan Demidov for most hype this season for me. I cannot wait to see what a healthy and locked in Laine looks like. Leave your thoughts down below. Leave some love for Patrik Laine. That's all we can ask. That's all we can ask from you down below. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you made it throughout this whole video, thank you sincerely. And hey, let us know you made it the whole way through. Thank you for tuning in every single day all off season long. Leave your thoughts on all this. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you on the next one.